All right, this is Andrew with TechRaptor. We're here talking about Total War Three Kingdoms. I have Simon and Vienos, right? That's how you pronounce it?
That's me.
So one of the big questions I want to, is this based more on historical fact, or are you looking more at the romance of like the novel, or like what are you guys basing it mostly on?
So actually, thankfully, it's based on both.
Hey, best of both.
So basically, like when we chose to do this period, we were really excited to be setting a game in ancient China. It's something that a lot of people, certainly our players, maybe don't know a lot about as a period, and as kind of part-time educators, I like to believe, it's quite nice to bring a period that no one's seen. But when we started doing our research, we discovered that there are kind of two quite seminal, important texts for this period. There is the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, written later than the period, and then there are the records, which is actually fairly contemporary to the time. It's written during the Jin dynasty at the end of the period. So we discovered these two texts and we're like, oh, okay, what do we do with this? And it's like, we looked through and we noticed they're very similar. Both of them are very historical, going over the events that are there, but one of them is a lot more elaborate. You know, it's about these larger than life characters who are really almost kind of heroic and inspiring at that point. And we went, we have to do both of these. Like, we can't just do one.
I think it's interesting because records is you could say that it's more a history book that contains events, taxation lists, what happened to certain characters, who were the relevant personnel at certain key dates. And the Romance of Three Kingdoms, on the other hand, is more about like motivation of different people, relationship, and how do they feel, and it's much more like a romantic view. And it was an interesting thing that now I think first time in the series history we have a very good take that is you have the actual history, you have a more like motivation relationship, and if you put the two together it match up. So we felt that to do a real like justice to the subject matter, we include both of them in the game, and whenever you start a new campaign or whenever you are starting a new battle, you can select, do you want to see the more romanticized version that is about larger than life characters, like how people of the contemporary world would have looked at these warlords and heroes, or do you want the more historical version that is just mainly the pure facts? And I think it's exciting to be able to do this.
Did you guys look at any other kind of media, or was it mostly those two texts were kind of like the Bible of what you guys worked from?
We had like over 100 books that is just like the history books, but we looked at all the relevant movies and series, and even anime, manga, and
because that's the cool thing, because it's actually so cultural now, like so modern culture in the way that it works, and it's really pervasive, especially in kind of like Asia and stuff like that. It's like it's in so many media forms and in so many people's mindsets that I think it's difficult people not to have encountered it in some way, even if they hadn't realised.
Yeah, and in Eastern Asia, Romance of Three Kingdoms, and the Three Kingdoms period is something like in the West, if you think about like Robin Hood or King Arthur, that no matter where you come, it doesn't really matter if you are coming from Korea, from Japan, from China, from Vietnam. It's like it's the same. It's like with King Arthur or Robin Hood. It doesn't really matter with these. That are you from States or from Poland, from the UK? It's part of your universal culture. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to bring something from the East, the more universal culture.
So how'd you guys land on doing this period? Was it a draw of the characters, or someone was a big Romance Three Kingdoms, like, hey, we should do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's
all right.
I think the first memory of Three Kingdoms is actually it's Simon and with another colleague were sitting in a couch and watching Red Cliff, and it's like, we should totally do this because overall the whole like mood and feeling and everything in the Three Kingdoms matching and together with Total War is like something that look nice.
It's everything we want in a Total War game, isn't it, really? It's like grand strategy, huge landmass, crisis, character, events. It's just like
drama, intrigue.
It's brilliant.
So speaking of the characters, I want to talk more about the duel stuff. So it seems like only certain characters are going to be able to duel. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Strategists wouldn't be able to duel.
Certainly.
And some are better at dueling than others, right?
Yeah. So what kind of stuff would influence duel? Like, I think you guys said that you'll be able to equip the heroes differently. Is that going to affect who wins what? And
So yeah, eventually, I mean, the important thing I think is that characters are core to us. I think as you sort of brushed on, like Three Kingdoms is all about characters, be it the romance or the records. This is a story of people in a period fighting for control of China, essentially, after the fall of the Han Dynasty, and character is vital to that experience. The one thing we're pushing heavily is the importance of every character, not just your faction leaders, but even your generals, people lower down the chain. They're all characters and people with their own ideas, basically. They're not just pieces anymore. These are like full characters, and the way we're doing that is we're doing it through the things that you can give them, their weapons, their items, their traits. Every character has their unique kind of makeup of traits that makes them a person, but then also we have the concept of the Guanxi, which is Guanxi, it's like the Guanxi, and that's about your interpersonal relations as well, and every character has their friends, their rivals, their families, people who owe them a favor, like their bosses.
It seems like you see that there's a lot of banter back and forth in it.
And that's all influenced by the effects and the people who like them. Your traits influence how you feel about certain topics, and the people you meet have their opinions on certain topics, and that starts to build relationships between characters. So, for example, one cool thing you could do is maybe there's a character you really want in another faction, and you hire their friend, not because you want the friend, because you want the person in the other faction to bring them in, and there's this powerful social network almost going on within the game that you have to interact with.
Yeah, but this is something that, if you think about like just a bit bigger, then this is not just between individual characters, but we reached a new level of persistence with the characters in the game world, because these characters are not just existing for you, for right there in your faction, but they are moving around. So previously you could just hire someone because he's a great warrior, but now you will think about like maybe this guy will be good because he has good friends, and this character, I only need him to make acquaintance with their friends. Or if you don't hire someone, that doesn't make them disappear. 10 turns later they might return with an army of one of your enemies, and it's like, well, sorry, it's nothing personal, but he hired me, now he's the boss, sorry.
So are there other ways other than hiring to like influence those relationships?
So one of the other really cool things we do is the concept of past experiences. So the way you treat people as a faction leader will affect how they feel about your faction as a whole. So, if you kick someone out of your faction, they're going to remember that you basically fired them, and that could involve them then coming back to get you, and once again that's going to tie into the battles with the conversations, and they're going to say like, you fired me, I'm coming for you right now. Like, it's really important that we give all your actions kind of have an effect and an impact on the world, and that has a kind of fluctuation on the web, as it were, of the kind of character relationships that you have to kind of handle and deal with.
Yeah, we really wanted those stories that happen, for example, with Hannibal, that just because your greatest enemy is beaten, like think about between Hannibal and the Romans, doesn't mean that they are removed from the world. And now you have a strong enemy who wants to come back, and they will do everything in their power. They will ally with the worst of your enemy just to take on you, and this is an interesting new story element that we never had before, that you can have characters basically coming back from time to time and build proper villains over time.
Yeah, don't get me started what happens if you kill someone's family members.
So like in the dueling is when you defeat someone, they're not dead necessarily, is that?
Not always, they can.
They can
right?
be, okay.
A kind of spear to the face is sometimes quite fatal. But sometimes, but also a duel can end in running away, and it's also part of your gameplay, part of your interaction with that system is, my character is losing, and imagine a general that you've grown on campaign, they've got friends in your faction, rivals in the enemy faction, they have powerful equipment, strong personality traits, and you love that character really.
Oh yeah.
If they're in a duel and they're losing, you've got to make that call. It's like, do I let them maybe try and win? If I don't pull out early enough, they could die, but then they might not die. Or maybe, for example, if you're dueling one of your friends, you're not going to kill your friend in a duel, right? You're going to be like, we will fight this, one of us will win. I will let you
put a good show on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the outcome of the duel can be something that, okay, you defeated them, you didn't kill them, and that might be the result how you able to hire them, because now they really trust you, or they are grateful not to be killed and those things.
So what kind of like the big benefit or like risk that you're taking with the duel? Like, what kind of effect can it have? Like, if one's over, like whoever wins. Like, if you lose, what kind of stuff do you lose in the battle?
It can have quite a large impact to a certain extent. I'd say kind of the main thing is like the purpose of the duel is really important. It's that whole thing of holding up an enemy general, or even potentially just taking a piece off the board of that particular battle can be really strong. But then, I'd say every character has their retinues. I think you saw it in the kind of demo battle. Like, you've got your multiple characters, each with their retinues troops, and their troops are kind of attached to them. The troops are loyal to their general, and their general is loyal to you, if you see what I mean. So it's kind of a multi-stage system. But those troops will be affected if your general loses a duel, right? Like, if one of your characters loses that duel, there will be an impact on their retinue from that, you know. And having a big impact on one of your retinues, that could turn the tide of a battle.
There can be a wider effect outside of the battle, because accepting a duel is an honorable thing. Not accepting it is dishonorable. Just like intervening in a duel, or just you can have a situation where you're losing and it's like, well, I know it's an honorable thing, but spear guards just like help out the guy, and you can have these situations, and all of these have an effect, a ripple through effect on the relationships. Because like if someone is super honorable and you sent in the cavalry to help them, it might be a fallout between you, because they thought that you dishonored them, because an honorable death is better than a dishonorable win of the duel. So you can create complex situations.
Do you guys have a favorite character?
Jahudin.
Yeah.
He's super cool.
Alright, he is very cool. Like I was telling you, I was like, I love that Holda ate his eye.
That's the nice thing as well. Like, he ate his eye, and this is the battle just after he eats his eye. Actually.
Okay.
It's during this particular campaign against Lubu. He gets shot in the arrow. You know, blood of my mother and father, I shall not waste thee. Nom nom nom.
Great.
But he's just super cool.
Oh yeah.
Teams also.
Yeah. All right. He's pretty great. Anything else you want to tell people about? Let them know about?
So like one of the cool things about, as we were discussing with the characters and how important they are, faction leaders are also characters, right? That's really important for us. Like, it's Cao Cao's faction. It's the faction of Cao Cao, importantly, and in that point of view, we're going to have 11 factions playable.
Oh, wow.
When you first boot up that game, there'll be 11 factions ready for you to explore and try, and each one is going to be very unique to itself, and because it's character driven, we wanted to kind of put you in their boots a little bit, and the idea is, rather than giving you just buffs to the things they were good at previously, we actually try and put you in a situation where you have the same problems and the same options for solutions as they had. So rather than just sort of being with them, you get to be them as well, and we try and put you in the mindset to help you learn that character almost, because we know not everyone's going to know who Cao Cao or Liu Bei is for that sort of moment, but the idea is by putting you in their shoes and giving you their experiences almost, we're going to actually be pushing that forwards. I think that'll be really interesting.
From my point, I think that this is the first really character-centric game. We always had games, all our games had characters, and we had games that are character-focused, but here, this is character-centric. You have to really reason with the characters, you have to understand them. It's still a sandbox, you can do whatever you want, so we don't stop you, but you have to deal with the consequences, and at the end you have to step up your game. Previously you had to be a great strategist who controls like construction projects and battles and just think about the well-being of a nation. Now you have to be a great leader as well. You have to think about your people and make them want to work with you. And I think it's a great change.
All right, well, thank you for your time. That was Simon Yenos talking Total War 3 Kingdoms.